ask questions. When you get nervous and feel stumped and like get that, ask a question quick. So take the pressure off your plate and chuck it on, hot potato that thing onto their plate as fast as you can. And here's the way to do it. Get them to talk. They want to do it anyway.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your hosts, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your hosts, Nate and Brian, hanging out with you again and looking forward to a little bit of a party with just the two of us today. We are going to be talking about your favorite subject. That's right, yourself, of course. And not only yourself, but how to train yourself on how to overcome objections, which is something that we can all benefit from, whether you're in the home services industry or not. Objections are going to come your way in life one way or another, so why not get ready to get better at them and overcome them starting now? And that's what we're going to do on today's show, and we're going to have a little bit of an intro here before we get into the meat of the topic, and to do that, we're going to turn to Brian for our quote.
Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Albert Einstein.
Interesting. The physicist bringing math into the equation as he so easily did on all of his other things. Yeah,
he's the one. He's quoted all the time as saying compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. But rarely does anybody finish the quote, which is the rest of it is that second part. He who understands it earns interest. He who doesn't pays interest. And we're not doing a Dave Ramsey episode here. You know what I mean? We're not going to be doing a fix your finances episode, although this can certainly help with that. The reason I wanted to talk about that quote is, hey, maybe he was only talking about interest earned or interest paid in monetary terms. But I like that quote so much more for sweat equity interest. The work that you do or don't put in, the work that you did or did not put in 5, 10, 20 years ago. Let me tell you something. I'd be concerned about who's going to hear this and be upset with me for talking about them. But these people don't listen to the show or anything like it, so it doesn't really matter. But I got a lot of people I came up with at different times of my life who are pretty much exactly where I left them 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
Exactly where I left them. I was grinding away. I was listening to what I listened to. I was reading what I read. I was sequestering myself away from the group to go get better. I wanted to listen to, sports radio and stand-up comedy and music as much as the next person. And still do. And, I pulled into the shop this morning almost alongside two other guys. One's an apprentice and one's a tech in a truck. And both of them had the music on so loud with their windows up that I couldn't hear what each one was listening to because the other one was drowning it out. Guess what I was listening to?
Nice. Limp Bizkit.
Really? You think I'm paying that $100 bill, huh? What $100? We haven't worked together in a year, but I used to work with Nate in Lancaster, Pennsylvania for a decade or better. What is that $100 bill I'm speaking of, Nate?
Yeah, so there was a standing bet that if anybody was in the parking lot when Brian pulled in to the shop and heard
anywhere else during the workday.
Fair. And heard what he was listening to as he was pulling up. If it was if it was not an Audible book or a podcast relevant to improvement, he would pay them $100. And as far as I know, 0 100s were issued.
Nope. I kept a crisp, clean $100 bill folded up in the glove box, ready to pay that out anytime because, hey, from time to time, I probably slipped. You know, there was a reason that I said I'll make this bet, but I better have this $100 bill ready, you know, just in case I slip up. But no, the only time music played in my car was when, like, you know, 3 or 4 of us were going to lunch, and I'm like, you screwballs aren't going to listen to this, so I'll turn music on to appease you, you know, because, you know, you're not going anywhere.
That, and you set a reminder for Siri, when my car pulls in work parking lot, change to Audible.
Yeah. Once I hit the train tracks by the shop, to immediately change over to a podcast, please. No, but it was funny, especially on the apprentice level. Like, it's just like I walked into the shop scratching my head. Bzz, bzz, just rattling the whole vehicle, like music, on the way to work. And look, I get it. You're an apprentice. You're not going to sell. So where's the sales training getting you? I mean, I don't get it. As in, I agree with you. I get where your mind could be at here. Oh, it hypes me up. It pumps me up. It gets me ready to go. Loser talk. Loser talk. That's what that is. You have so little time throughout the day. You're especially in a passenger seat because you're not deciding what's on the radio. You don't know who you're riding with that day or what they're listening to. You've got that ride from the house to the shop, and maybe from the shop to the house, to listen to something that is making you smarter than you were before you got into the vehicle. That's how I'd use my time if I were you. But I'm not in control of your radio. But do I notice this stuff? Yeah, I notice this stuff. Hopefully, whoever you're going to sit in a passenger seat with today notices this stuff too. And it's like, if you go to turn music on the truck, it's like, slap your hand. No, what are you doing? Dude, you don't have that much time to get better. And if I have one regret in terms of the time that I spent in between calls when I was in my truck, I would have grabbed myself and said, bro, when you're in leadership, you don't get to listen to anything throughout the day. Like, I'll have a headphone on with an audiobook playing, but the amount of interruptions that come, and it is impossible to get into something. It's impossible. But I would say to my younger self, dude, you got a couple years left until you're in leadership, and you don't have time to listen to more audiobooks. Put it on a higher speed. Get more. Get as much as squeeze every drop of these minutes out, because you have no idea when somebody's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, this was your last day riding a truck. And hey, you're off to the races. If that's what you're looking for is leadership, then okay, you got a promotion. That's the good news. The bad news is your time is no longer your own. You don't have time to listen to something between calls. That's behind you. So take advantage of every minute. Freaking music? Like, you are paying somebody else to entertain you in a way that is not making you smarter. Like, every time you press play, that artist is getting paid to tell you about their day, or if it's rap, even worse, because they're telling you about their jewelry and their success.
Listen, if you're going to pull shots at Little Chirp, man, do it straight to his face. Okay.
Dude, I heard Little Chirp is a motivational guy, bro. I heard he's telling people to get better. I don't listen to him. It's not my cup of tea, but that's what I heard.
Okay. Well, just before you start, throwing punches like that, just bear in mind, there are certain types of music that can do both things, entertain and improve. Just saying.
Yeah. So, and I don't, only reason I didn't want to call my man out is because I'm not calling out the guys who are just relentlessly listening to things to get better, be it the Waste No Day podcast, be it audiobooks, be it YouTube videos. There are also those guys at the shop, and those guys are taking off. They really are taking off. And how can you not? Like, you're being brainwashed one way or the other. If you're driving around listening to something all day, you are 100% you're being brainwashed. Now, you're going to decide what your brain is being trained on. Because if it's music, it's whatever they're telling you. You have a subconscious mind, and that subconscious mind is programmable, and it's being programmed by what you're listening to. I'm like sick of having these conversations because, I don't know, it's been 11 years now. I've been screaming. No, it's been way longer than that. Because even when I was in a truck doing it myself, I'd be in the parking lot like, bro, you got time to listen to music? Like the news? That's the worst thing you could listen to on the way to your call. And all I get is texts that make significantly less sales and money than me telling me why it's good for them. That's all I've gotten for the entire 2 decades that I've done it. And I know with this episode releasing, all I'm going to hear is a bunch of people telling me why they need quote unquote music and it's so beneficial to them. They're different. I'm just like, okay. I don't argue with them. I'm just like, cool. I get it. Yeah. Makes perfect sense to me. Come on. You do the math yourself, for crying out loud. Don't bring it to me. Just look in the mirror and convince yourself that makes perfect sense. You could be listening to somebody interviewed on a show that's doing it better than you are at that same exact time that you're listening to, I don't know. I don't even know who's out there these days,
Taylor Swift.
Yeah. But you're listening. I don't think a whole lot. I mean, the electricians, obviously, but I don't think a whole lot of tradespeople are listening to Taylor Swift in their trucks. But seriously, just do the math. What if you're trying to learn Spanish in a fast a time as possible, and you have a drive to and from work? Does it make sense to listen to people speaking Spanish with a translator, or does it make sense to listen to people speaking English only? Like, your brain is being programmed. So every time you turn on something to listen to, and I say this, look, not everybody's an audible learner. In fact, in the trades, most of us are not. So before you start texting me with how you don't get anything out of podcasts, again, part 2 of loser talk. All right. That is, nobody retains 80% of what they hear on a podcast or an audiobook or a YouTube video one time. Nobody does. You're not different there. It takes 10 times Nate does. Nate GPT absolutely retains 100% of everything. Nate GPT is different. You ain't Nate GPT, neither am I. But they say on average it takes 10 interactions with something. That's seeing it, hearing it, reading it, writing it, and speaking it 10 times to retain 66% of it. All right. Wow. So you are not special or different because, hey, I barely even catch any of what's being said. You don't have to. The time is going to pass anyway, right? As Brian Tracy always said, the time's going to pass anyway. Your subconscious is taking in a lot more than you are consciously. So just let it do its work. And look, we do definitely try to make these episodes as entertaining as possible without distracting from the message. I mean, we try to make it fun and crack some jokes and be, a little more motivating than just kind of the humdrum, like we're reading something, for sure. But it can only be so entertaining. This is an educational show. It's meant so that when you turn the radio off, you're smarter than you were when you turned it on. That's what it's meant to do. Right. So it's only going to be so much fun. It's going to have to be a discipline.
Dare we say it's edutainment? Yeah,
no, I don't. I'm only entertained when I'm talking, and there's not nearly enough of it. All right. No, it's education, man. It's getting better. But the deal is, it's like eating a high protein meal that's great for you. Some wonderful center cut red meat with all those nutrients and vitamins in it.
Meat.
I hope no vegans listen to our show because it's not for you. The show's not for you.
This just in, we picked up a new sponsorship this week.
Oh,
Impossible Meat.
And they left. There goes our first sponsorship.
Crap.
Yeah, we got a vegan waitress at a restaurant that we frequent. She's awesome, but she's a vegan, and I tell her often that I would get like chicken or something, but I like the biggest animal possible to be murdered when when I get my meal, because it's not like she just doesn't like the killing of the animals, you know. So I ordered the burger. But I forget, she complimented us Tuesday on something, and I said, you know what, just for that, give me the salmon, the smallest animal that can be hurt, and let me tell you, give me one that died of natural causes. Right? She was like, you're hilarious. No, but it's like getting this nice nutritious meal that you know has all the nutrients and the vitamins and minerals you need, sitting in front of you, cooked up to perfection. If you just eat 2 bites of it and leave it sit on the plate, and you can talk about how nutritious that meal was, but what good did it do you? It gets scraped off into the garbage can, right? Or at least in my house, the kids scrape it off onto the floor when I'm not looking and the dog eats it. So you gotta eat, man. You gotta get your fork and knife and let's get busy. And getting busy, like, yeah, that it's tough for me to see that happen on the apprentice level, because I want so badly to go back to 19, 20-year-old me and be like, bro, you're not going to get into this stuff until you're 24. I can't imagine where you're going to be in 2024 when you're 44 if you had started this 4 years earlier, and stop screwing around with, like, around college football time. All of a sudden the Wolverines are making a run. Now all you listen to is like sports radio and just, I got to be filled in, you know. That I wouldn't trade one day of audio vehicle training to get back one day of sports radio. Now that it's all gone, all behind me. Who cares? Who cares? I mean, it's not making you better. And this is your national champion Wolverines talking right here. You know what I'm saying? But still, quiet down, Nate.
Was there a point?
I can hear your eyes rolling. Pipe down over there. Right? I'm going to unplug your mic.
This is a very long introduction. Can we just shut it down at this point?
No, let's go on about the Wolverines for about 15 minutes. Still, I would give back even the time that I spent watching those games and all of that to develop a little bit more, to get a little bit better. I would, 100%. But at no point would I trade one of the days that I spent developing to be entertained. That's the reverse engineering close on myself.
And that is a great place to segue into the topic that we'll be looking forward to discussing here in just a minute, which is teaching yourself how to overcome objections. But before we get to that, Brian, it's time to take a look at the spotlight on one of our faithful reviewers.
5 stars. My husband and I started a mobile RV repair company about 5 years ago. We both left our 20-year careers and set out on the successful adventure. Inspirational speakers such as Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, and Bob Farrell helped give us the courage to go see what we can do. After 5 years, we have a fairly successful business by our standards, but we realize that we, with our knowledge, have taken it as far as we could go. In the last week, I remembered a podcast about HVAC millionaires and decided to seek that out and found your podcast. Wow. The ideas and inspiration that I have come to on how to grow both my revenue and business have been amazing. Although we do not do home HVAC, working on campers and RVs, we are the Maytag repairman, the electrician, the plumber, the HVAC man, as well as anything you can think of. Thank you, and I look forward to catching up on past podcasts and learning more. Tanya Link, VLRV Services out of Inman, South Carolina.
All right.
Yeehaw. Thank you, Tanya Link. What an awesome review.
That was very kind. That's the first, to my knowledge, of the mobile RV.
Yep, I'm adding that
business.
one to the list. Adding that one to the list, yeah.
Very cool. I don't have an RV, but if ever I do, I'll have to look you all up.
Yeah, buddy. You're going to get one, right?
Not right now. Too many other things to balance.
Really? I just feel like you're just the type of family that would enjoy hitting all the national parks in an RV.
Oh no, I'd get down with that. Just not sure. I'm looking to take on another house on wheels. The one I have without wheels is
Gotcha.
is demanding enough right now.
You want to go through the audience real quick? At this point, HVAC techs, plumbers, electricians, garage door techs, pressure washing companies, window cleaners, carpet cleaners, roofers, chimney sweeping and lining, remodelers, pest control, pool cleaners, solar sales, mosquito control, junk haulers, insulation, fence repair and construction, dumpster services, knife sales, and now RV repairs.
I like it. That's
yeah,
awesome.
buddy. Love that.
We need to get a review from a knife salesperson.
Yeah,
There's
one of them actually texted me that he loves the show, and it really helped him up his game. And then I said, "You mean sharpen your skills?"
Absolutely.
I was like, how could you not drop that one? You know,
there's a lot of puns to be desired there.
Desired? I don't know about desired.
I like puns, so bring it on. Speaking of puns and things to look forward to, it is time now to put Mr. Obie Jackson,
AKA Objection,
in your passenger seat. Our guest today is Obie Jackson. He personifies the essence of sales objections, bringing to life the myriad concerns and hesitations customers encounter during the sales process. With a sharp and discerning mind, Obie represents every what if, but I'm not sure, and more that potential buyers experience. Their presence is a constant reminder of the challenges sales professionals face and opportunities these challenges present. Born from the collective uncertainty of countless customers, Obie Jackson thrives in the spaces between decision and doubt. It's time now to turn to him and welcome Mr. Obie Jackson to the show. All right, Brian. So how are we going to teach ourselves to overcome?
I would say welcome to the show, Obie Jackson, Objection, but you're not a welcome friend in most cases. Although, you know what's funny is we were talking a little bit about reverse engineering things in the intro. Is reverse engineering your biggest sales? Any professional salesperson or even amateur, but who's had a few wins, who's actually overcome a few objections, which is rare for the amateur because usually they don't actually ask for the order. They just kind of push options forward and start praying. And occasionally a client will just say, "Hey, give me that one." And they're like, "Yeah, sold the crap out of that one," you know? But and I'm not taking shots at the amateurs. That's what I was. And that's what 99% of young salespeople are. And by young, I don't mean you started a month ago. I mean, you either started a month ago or you started 7 years ago and you've either never had good training or you've never done anything with the training you've had. Because you're in one of those three buckets if you suck at sales. So if you look back as a professional, your favorite moments in selling were when you got hit the hardest and didn't stay down and got back up and tried again and tried again and tried to, the ones that really drug you around and exhausted you. The worst objection people that you turned are your all-time favorite moments. Like who wants to watch a movie with no crisis?
Right.
If it's just about two lovebirds who stayed in love from beginning to end, and I'm going with romantic comedies because I'm looking at Nate here and he looks like a rom-com guy. But if we're going with romantic comedies and or even a romance movie or whatever, from beginning to end, they just hold hands and they're deeply in love. There's never any conflict. There's never, the sickness that kicks in. There's never the parents that hate the guy or whatever. There's none of that. There's no conflict. There's no movie.
We should see if Nicholas Sparks is available. Let's see if he can come on the show.
Every time you remind me that you know who that is. I had just started respecting you because we live a couple thousand miles apart.
I'm still in complete shock that the guy who wrote The Notebook is a guy. Like, At no point did I ever think. I was literally shocked when I found that out. But
I'm shocked that you found that out, my man. I feel bad for our audience.
I don't want to hear it. You know
just found
exactly
that
who
out.
Nicholas Sparks is.
They just
you've watched
found
The
that
Notebook.
out. Oh.
You know what I'm talking about. All you tough and rough guys out there, you do too.
There might be a couple Rachel McAdams scenes I've watched over and over. Yes, you're probably right about that.
That seems inappropriate, Brian. Moving
on. What do you
mean?
It was very heartfelt, that movie. Love it. It's one of my wife's favorites.
Okay.
So in everybody's highlight reel would be the toughest clients and the worst objections that they overcame and sold. Nobody would make a highlight reel out of laydowns or low-hanging fruit. Don't get me wrong. I wanted a laydown at every call I went to as well. Because, at the end of the day, it's about making money, making clients happy, and beating your teammates. Or at least it was for me. Number one, baby. So, of course, we want the low-hanging fruit, but that's not what we really celebrate. Like you were calling, I was calling my team, my buddies, my brother, and really celebrating the ones where I just came out of there with like black eyes and a broken nose, right? Like where you really had to put the work in. So you don't, it's that, was it Jim Rohn? I think it was Jim Rohn or maybe Zig Ziglar who said, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. I was actually on Sam, what's the name of the podcast? Close It Now podcast with Sam Wakefield. Recently, and he brought that quote up and it reminded me, yes, it's so true. Like I want to walk into the gym and bench press 425 weighing 200 pounds. I really want to. I want it to just magically happen, right? But what would happen with my frame and my body not being able to support that weight if I actually got that weight up? My arms would probably pop off like Mr. Potato Head, right? Because my joints are not ready for that weight. Like in every aspect of yourself, you have to toughen up and get better to get to that next level. And this is no different. So if you're going to wish for things to be easier, you're actually wishing for much tougher sales that you figure out how to sell. And then all of a sudden things become much easier because you became much better.
Yeah, there's something to be said about the overcoming piece there, Brian. And I was just thinking about comedy, which I know everybody likes a good comedian, right? And some of the funniest comedians talk about some of the most embarrassing situations, but they're the most memorable ones because you're feeling the awkwardness, you're feeling the embarrassment or the just, cringe worthiness of what occurred. And you remember it. And it's one of those things that it doesn't, we've talked about that verse in Hebrews before. Discipline in the moment doesn't feel pleasant, but it does yield a harvest of righteousness. And in this case, a harvest of improvement.
Absolutely, buddy. And speaking of funny stories and discipline, I told this on one of our Wiser Wednesdays here recently. Actually, I think it turns into a Friday 5. Look, if you're not in the Waste No Day Facebook group, we post live training videos in there every week. I'll just do 5 to 10 minutes on a topic, like objections, like a role play or whatever. And then every Wednesday, we post like a 45 to 60 minute training from some of the top trainers in the industry who come and train my team on Zoom, and several teams from around the country Zoom in to watch it. And I make a video out of it and post it in the Waste No Day Facebook group. There's a link in the show notes of this episode. So go in there, and if you don't have a Facebook account, just make some dummy, Nate the Plumber Facebook and just have a picture of your truck or whatever. Like, who cares? You don't have to get into the politics. You don't have to look at anything. Just get in the group and soak up this insane amount of free product in there. It's just tons and tons of free training.
Username Nathan Sparks.
Yeah, Nathan Sparks, right? The most romantic guy I know.
Exactly.
The most romantic comedy guy I know. Old rom-com Nate GPT over here.
Exactly.
So one thing we'll do every now and then in Phoenix when we're slow at this team, and we have 8 trucks right now, and we can get slow sometimes, is I'll bring the techs in, right? And we have this relationship with the Mr. Sparky Electric and the 1 Hour Heating and Cooling in town, where we'll outbound to their clients. So I'll bring a couple techs in, give them a list of clients to outbound to, and we'll just say, we're going to come over and do a water heater flush and a plumbing inspection. No charge to you, just for being a Mr. Sparky client, right? And they in turn get access to our client list. So we have a full script. The funny thing is the guys will do it on a Thursday when we're slow, and then we won't be slow again for 2 weeks, and they'll come in and do it, and you walk by the room where they're doing it, and you're like, bro, what happened to the script? Like, we trained on it. We role played. But that's how it works. If you go that long without role playing your script, you will forget your script. Like, you have to be up in that thing. I mean, who was better at, shooting free throws than Michael Jordan, even toward the end of his career? But what was he doing in his off time? Practicing free throws. Because you can just go a couple weeks without doing something you're great at, and you're not that great anymore. So anyway, I come in and hear one of the techs doing it, and he's got kind of a crowd. And this is somebody, we haven't worked for before. So the guy just he quickly dismisses him. And I noticed 2 issues. The first one being that he went right for the sale. There was really no warm up. And I trained the guys to say, hey, just wanted to check in with you and see how your experience was with our technician from Nate's Heating and Cooling the other day. And he didn't do that. He just said, hey, this is Brian with Nate's Heating and Cooling and Brian's Plumbing. Calling to let you know that your job with Nate's Heating and Cooling came with a complimentary water heater flush, blah, 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 blah. The guy's like, oh, I'm not interested. Thanks. And he just goes, and then here was challenge part 2. Challenge part 2 was he took that immediate first no and said, okay, thanks for taking my call. Click. And they just hung up. Now, the challenge with that part is you're in a zone, I feel like, at all times, one or the other. You're either in a zone where you're taking a first no as that's that, and you're packing it up and heading to your next one. And I don't care if you're a dispatcher, CSR, tech, comfort advisor, whatever, salesperson, you're in the zone where you're taking a no, and that no is all it takes. Or you're in a zone where you catch that first no, and all you hear, you don't even hear the word, you hear, I need more information. You haven't shown me a big enough problem to solve. You've shown me a big enough problem, but you haven't shown me how you're going to solve it. Right? You hear something like this. And when that's what you hear, you flip back on them and give them more information, right? You talk more. You ask questions, ideally, because that's the best way to get more information from them, so you can know where the pain is, or help find the pain or help find the solution. So neither of those things were done. And I said, let's have a chat real quick. And there were 3 or 4 techs watching, like I said. And I said, well, let's do this. On this one, ask the client, like the script says, how was your recent experience? So, and then when the client just kind of shoos you away and says, hey, I'm not interested, look for the opportunity to do a pattern interrupt. Anytime something's not going your way, be it phone sales, in-person sales, you've become one of these people they talk to all day. How did you get my number? Stop calling me. Put me on the do not call list. Whatever, right? Take me off your list. Pattern interrupt right there. And I said, bro, at that point, just say anything. Like, make it funny. Just say, oh, time out, sir. I'm not calling you to ask to borrow your TV. I'm just trying to come over to your house and help you out by doing a service that costs a significant amount of money for free. Why? Because I want the opportunity to be your plumber for life. Until the day I get out of a plumbing truck, I want to be the guy that you call the office and say, I don't care how long it takes, I'll wait for him. And if you give me the opportunity to come to your home and show you what I do, That's what you'll ask for from here on out. Guarantee it.
So good.
So if you're going at it like that, one, pattern interrupt, and then change the conversation around to something he's never heard before. So he's like, I'm like, all right, so you got it? He's like, got it. All right, let's call the next one. Now he's got a crowd, like just 4 or 5 of us standing around like, yeah, you got this. You got this. Ring, ring. It's an elderly lady. Hello. And you kind of hear her husband in the background, like kind of shuffling around, you know. And he's like, hey, this is Brian with Nate's. We always say the other company first. Nate's Heating and Cooling and Brian's Plumbing. Just wanted to call and see how your service call with Nate's Heating and Cooling went the other day. She's like, oh yeah, it was good. And then like very dismissive. Like, I want off the phone with you, salesman. It was her exact mode. And he goes like, and we had talked about this too, ask questions. When you get nervous and feel stumped and like get that, ask a question quick. So take the pressure off your plate and chuck it on, hot potato that thing onto their plate as fast as you can. And here's the way to do it. Get them to talk. They want to do it anyway. So he just goes, oh, it was great. Like a real nice Chris Voss-esque, mirror. And she's like, yeah, we actually had an accident happen while he was here. And thank God he was here to help us with it. And unfortunately, he got the kind of trip up again. And he's like, And I'm like, oh, just ask more questions. And he goes, he did recover nicely, but he needed to keep going until he felt more comfortable. Here was the challenge. She felt comfortable now, way more than he did. He still didn't. He's on the phone with a complete stranger, and he is being judged by 5 people standing next to him, and he's never done this before in his life. Still crushed it. I love this guy's spirit. He didn't care. And he's super obedient with it. Here, try this. And he's just like, all right, runs forward and tries it. So he goes, hey, we pride ourselves on training our people to care, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, so the reason I'm calling you today is with your service call comes this water heater flush, yada, yada. And she goes, no, I'm not interested. Thank you. Not right now. And he goes, oh, whoa, ma'am, look, I'm not calling you to come over and steal your TV. It's just like, I was like Chewy, Tristan, and I don't know, there were like 3 or 4 of us there. We are crying, like we start bawling our eyes out laughing, like, and trying to be quiet because he's got this client on speakerphone. So we're just like holding our mouths with tears streaming down our face. And he looks up around at us and he chuckles. And it was just like that. And then she just starts busting out laughing. She's like, I didn't know, like, I didn't think that. And he goes, and then he does it. He's just like, ma'am, I want to swing by the house, provide you with some amazing service on your plumbing system, and become your plumber for life. And the rest is history. So
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. So here's the thing. It was awesome. You know what? It was Bradley Kulevitz. Love that guy. His energy.
Way to go, Bradley.
His energy is just electric. I'd say the client's name, but I have no idea who it was. So the great part is he's a listener. He loves people. He's a servant at heart, and he has drive for days. This guy's so driven. The challenge is he very clearly is not practiced enough at getting an objection in any place in life where you're at, and having to figure out a way around it and come back and ask again. And you don't, there's not enough time in the morning meeting to be very fluid in this, right? There's just not enough time. It's an hour a day, 5 days a week if you're lucky. Most shops don't do anything near that. But even if you got that, 5 hours a week ain't going to cut it. And then when you're in front of the client, you have all the nerves of a very high risk situation, because it is a high risk situation, right? This is do or die, pay my bills or not. This is gain a customer for life or push a customer in the wrong direction and they go to social media and name you by name while they beat the company up on 5 different platforms. This is high risk. It's also high reward. Mm-hmm. So you have all the nerves of that. It's still a great training ground, but it's not where you need to do the bulk of your training. So what we talked about, and I talk about this all the time, and I do this with my son, Ethan, who edits the podcast. We'll be editing this, so he'll hear it, so you know it's true. Well, I'll just give you an idea of one of the ways that I teach techs to train themselves to overcome objections. I'll help you with the script. I've got them for days. I'll help you even like oftentimes my scripts are built for the person I'm talking to. So I'm like, well, with your personality, the way you should overcome this objection is by saying this. Because if you try to use my personality, it's not going to work. Nate isn't Brian. Nate's going to speak to somebody completely differently than I do. So it almost doesn't make sense for you to use my exact verbiage because you're not going to use my body language. You're not going to use my facial expressions. You're not all animated and bouncing off the walls like I am. It's a different look. But do we have super hyper successful people that are monotone in sales that we've trained?
Yes.
Yes, we do. So Ethan, my son, 16, and my wife, his mom, and our 2 youngest daughters were at a frozen yogurt shop in Scottsdale. And Ethan sits down right across from me at a table, sipping on his or chewing on his frozen yogurt there. And I got my back to the counter. And at that point, we were the only people in the frozen yogurt shop. And Ethan sits down and looks at me and he smirks a little bit. And I'm like, huh? And I look back at the girl behind the counter is about his age. And he thinks she's cute. That was his first mistake. And he knows better. He'll never do that again. Because I go, oh, you want something? Well, what does the world belong to? According to Brian Tracy.
The world belongs to the askers.
Yeah. And thankfully he knows the answer to this because it's drilled into his head. So he's just like, and he literally goes, I don't ask him to do anything. He's like, oh, Dad, can I just enjoy my frozen yogurt? I'm like, bro, this is going to be the best frozen yogurt you've ever had when we're done here. And I said, look, I'm not saying go get her number or go, ask her to the Dollar Theater or whatever. He doesn't even have his license yet, I'm just going to say, go find out what high school she goes to. Like, and don't steamroll it. Don't just go, what school do you go to? Like from across the room, like go spark up an actual conversation and then come back and enjoy your yogurt. Well, little does he know, I turned my phone video camera on and backwards.
Please tell me this is going to make it on the Facebook group.
Maybe. We'll see. Maybe. I'll certainly send it to you though. So he goes walking over, and unfortunately, I can't hear a word he's saying. I got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old and my wife right there, and you just can't hear anything they say. So I'm like, I didn't know that at the time, but it is what it is. What the video does catch though is that they're like very serious. He's so cool. You have no idea how cool this guy is. He's the coolest.
Ice cold.
He can't be. Yeah, he's Iceman from Top Gun. He can't be bothered to smile at some woman. You know what I mean? It's a lot of work. So he's just super cool. Plays it off. Turns around. Swagger. Almost walks back with like a G limp, Sits down. What he doesn't know and doesn't find out until I play him the video later in the car is the second he did his about face to head back to the table, she got a huge grin on her face and did like, ooh, and then like shuffled over to where she stays when there's no customers. Yeah. So look, if you're married, I'm not telling you to go, find out pieces of information about the attractive woman at the bar or the restaurant or whatever. But you yourself need to figure out some things that you're going to start doing everywhere you go. And my favorite one by far is genuine pieces of gratitude that you throw at people, compliments or gratitude. Knock it off with the opposite sex one. If like, if you're married and this it's going to cause you problems, I don't want the waste no day to be the reason somebody did something like that. But what things my mentor would have me do was like ask for the upgrade at the hotel, ask for better seats on the plane. If you don't like the table you're being sat at, now here's the thing. There are a lot of high Ds on the disc profile or A-type personalities listening to this who are like, I'll just tell them what I want. I don't care. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about bull in a china shop demanding things that just make everybody hate you. And yes, Ds, I'm talking to you. I'm talking about making them want to do it. So taking yourself and your desire out of it. Now, you still are going to get what you want, but the idea is to get them to think it's a good idea for themselves, right? And oftentimes the law of reciprocation is the most powerful thing you can use here. Do for me, and I feel obligated to do for you. That is the way we work, most people, sociopaths aside. So Nate, it doesn't work that way.
Fair. Brian, I wanted to ask you a question about that. So like, you gave a couple of examples there about where to conduct some trials and tests on things. Do you feel that there's any validity to like am I more inclined to push the limit a little bit of my comfort zone if I'm going after something that I'm like highly desiring, as opposed to, I mean, I don't actually care about this. I just want to see where it goes. You know what I'm saying? So like, let's say that, I don't know, you're in a line for something and, you've been waiting in that line for a really long time and it's somewhere you really want to go, like a ride at an amusement park or, some type of show or something like that. And like somebody, a staff person like draws the line right in front of you and, shuts the ride down or says something else. And you're like, I've been waiting. I've been super desiring of like this. And I put in all this work to get to this point. Do you think an environment like that, where you're more impassioned about, what you're about to ask for or what you would really like, do you think it's easier to function in that capacity than it is in like, I mean, honestly, I don't really care where I sit in the restaurant. I just want to find out if I can.
No.
What's your take on that? It's
significantly more difficult in the line scenario.
Because you're emotional.
You're heavily emotionally invested in this. And the big problem is most people are going to get angry and they're going to want to show that person who just cut the line off right in front of them that they're angry.
Right.
Now, you can do that, but quick time out. Self, how is this going to help me?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to help you one bit. So what your mind should switch over to is, well, what's my goal? Is my goal to make Kelly feel as crappy as possible because she shut the line off right before I got there?
Mm-hmm.
Or is my goal to get her to open that line up and let me and whoever's in front of me in? And a few more of us, right? Well, if my goal is to get on that ride or whatever it is we're talking about, I have a choice to make. And the choice is going to be, let's use charm, charisma, gratitude, and hopefully in some way the law of reciprocity, although I don't know how you're going to use it there. But I know what I would try to do in that situation, which is just, one, some situational awareness would help. If you're 2 or 3 people away from the gatekeeper, and in this case, it's a literal gatekeeper.
Right.
In my, me at my best, I'm striking up conversations and meeting everyone I go everywhere. So at my best, I'm on a first name basis with the lady checking me out at Whole Foods 2 customers before I get there. Already saying hello. How's your day going? What time are you at the beginning of your shift or toward the end of your shift? That's such a great one to ask, because every time I ask that one, and there can be 2 people ahead of me, and nobody really talks to the checkout person. It's just like, hey, good morning. Hey, good morning. How are you? Good. You? Good. Hi.
Beep.
Hey,
Beep.
yeah, if you could just
Beep.
and just put your card in there. Oh, sorry, you got to hit yes first. There you go. That's the most they get. So one that I use all the time is just to say, are you toward the beginning of your shift or the end of your shift? And if they're like, beginning of my shift, I'm just 2 hours in. I'm like, oh man, it's a lot of standing, huh? Oh yeah, blah, 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 feet. And then they just start talking about their shoes like all the time. And if they say, oh, I only got 45 minutes left, I'm almost out of here, I bet you can't wait to sit down. Same thing. Oh yeah, my goodness, but I got these new shoes, and like it's never fails, man or woman. Every time I do this, I don't know, probably 90% of the time they start talking about either their great shoes or their horrible shoes, and I always think it's funny that I make them think about their feet real quick, and they just run off talking about their shoes. But anyway,
quick side note on that: if there's anybody who listens on the Waste No Day podcast in the shoe business, you're welcome.
Boom, boom, shakalaka. Yeah, we help salespeople, bro. We don't care what they sell, right?
Sneakerheads included.
So I'll throw out something like that, and I'll get the person talking, especially if it's somebody who's like cranky, grumpy, somebody that I know I don't want to have a conversation with. That's the time to do it. That's when you really need to get through it. And look, it has nothing to do with checking out my groceries. I'm not going to ask them for a discount, or I don't expect a discount. I don't expect any better service. Nothing. It's just practice. Mm-hmm. At some point, it's going to be important that I'm able to effectively communicate with someone and make them feel like we're on the same side for no reason whatsoever, but make them feel like I'm on your team. At some point, the fact that I did this with this guy at Foot Locker, we'll say, thank you, Nate, for making it about shoes. I'll be able to use whatever I learned on him in a situation where it actually matters. Mm-hmm. And again, I haven't sold for over a decade. I haven't run a call. I haven't done a ride along since like 2015. So I'm not using this in the home anymore. Never. But still, it's important. It's important for me to stay crisp. How much more important is it if you sell for a living? That's a
fair point.
To be a people person beyond measure. And this is what, the reason the episode's called Learn to Train Yourself to Overcome Objections. This is what it is. I hope everybody wasn't waiting to hear a bunch of rebuttals to common objections. Look, we've done that episode and it's out there, and we're going to do more of them. It is the most requested thing we get is to do more role play of objections. So absolutely, we're going to get back to it. But the reason so many people want it, despite the fact that they have 7 of the biggest objections you can hear in the 7 Deadly Objections episode, which is, I think, our most downloaded episode ever. The reason people still ask for more is they never really learned to communicate up to that point. So if you're at my shop, you role play objections all the time. But still, when Bradley made that first call, he got his butt handed to him. Because when he filled up his gas tank that morning, he didn't do it. Right? When he saw the part runner or his operations manager or his fellow tech, or the one guy he doesn't really talk to that much at the shop. That one dude, he ain't like me. He didn't do it. That's where you need to practice. That's where you've got to really flex your muscles to grow them. So when I say train yourself to overcome objections, I'm talking about the communicator you need to become to even want to be able to take that leap in front of the client. It's not easy. Like for those who are out there doing it and using every rebuttal they hear on here, memorizing them and crushing life with them. We get Matt Hobart from Honey Dudes in Ohio, Mike Giddich's shop, posted a thing in the Waste No Day Facebook group where he did an awesome video where he was like, he randomly sat on a bus next to me at Vertical Track, Tommy Mello's event a couple years ago. And we just randomly sat next to each other. We started chatting, and he's telling me what they do, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And I'm asking him about his sales process, and the first thing I hear is like, he doesn't really have one. That's exactly what I hear. And I start telling him what a process looks like. And he's just like, dude, he's like a sponge. Like, what? And I'm like, have you heard the Waste No Day podcast? And he's like, no. And I'm like, dude, you're going to soak this thing up. Well, he made a cool video. Like, he said he was closing around 20 to 30%. And now he's closing around 80%. And he's tracking 3 million in revenue for this year. And he said, like, I owe it all to Waste No Day. You know how many people I've had that conversation with?
I do not.
I don't either, but it's every week. It's strangers all the time. I was at Costco. Did I tell this on the show? The Costco trip?
Not that I'm aware of, but
right,
I'm sure the fine people at Costco are tired of the Waste No Day podcast.
I certainly told my team. I was at Costco a couple Sundays ago, and I'm walking with my wife and 2 youngest daughters, and I'm pushing the cart. And this, I wasn't watching like what was coming up on my left. I don't know what I was doing, probably on the phone. But I see my wife go from my left and do this weird walk behind me flank move to get onto my right side. And I don't have to see. I just assume it's some Verizon salesman is coming up on my left. And she's like, you're going to go ahead and ward him off. I'm going to handle getting the groceries, And usually like if my older 2 were with us, they would have just run away because they're just like, this is going to be uncomfortable, So we're walking past them. And the guy just kind of leans forward from behind a table. There were 2 of them. And he goes, hey, do you need any help with treating the water at home?
Oh, no.
I like touched my heart. I was like, oh. I was like, and like I could see Amelia's just like, she's rolled. I could see her eyes roll through the back of her head. They made indentations. They rolled so hard. And I'm like, all right, we'll just keep going. I'm like, no, thank you. And so we keep going. And my 9-year-old is standing on the front of the cart, and I just dead stop to where she just like gets whiplash, like, hold up. I back it up. She's like, oh, Dad. And I'm like, guys, let's chat for a quick sec. Because like it dawned on me later as I was talking to my team, that this is 15 minutes from the shop and they sell water treatment and we sell water treatment. So I just spent 15 minutes training our competitors, but I don't care. Like there's, what did Stephen Covey always say in the 7 Habits? Dude, I get pushback for the show. I get pushback for our Wiser Wednesdays. I get pushback for bringing people on to train, quote unquote, everybody's competitors in their respective market, even in our market. But what did Stephen Covey say about the abundance mentality? His exact words were, there's plenty to go around and to spare. There's enough for everybody. I truly believe that. Now, I don't want to give my clients away. Certainly don't want to give my techs away. But I do want all of us to be better, right? For it to be a more professional thing. So I said, all this time my cat was under the bed. I had no idea. She just jumped out and scared the life out of me. Hey, Raven, welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, Raven. I said, gentlemen, let me ask you a quick question. How many times has this been successful today? This thing where you lean over the counter and ask, do you need any help treating your water at home? And they chuckled and looked at each other like they just didn't seem to care, which is crazy because they are commissioned.
Mm-hmm.
And they just looked at each other and laughed a little, and they're just like, and then one of them goes, you would be the first one.
Oh, man.
And I was just like, that's tough, man. Because I said, you guys, I mean, look, I don't care either way. Just you guys make commission, right? He's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, they have no idea what to say when they're hit with that, like either be super honest and blunt or have a great script for how you don't lie, but you don't say like I'm straight commission, right? But don't do the thing where you're clearly commission, but you also don't want to seem like it.
Right.
Sorry. Raven's scratching at something and making all kinds of noise. Come here. Come here, kitty. Noisy. She's got like some kind of bag back there or something. All right, stop being crazy. Honesty is your best policy when it comes to anything. So if it's, do you make commission? Either just go, yeah, we're 100% commission. I also 100% believe in this product, right? Or use what we talked about in the 7 deadly objections, which is like, if you're asking me if I make a little bit more money based on whether or not more people do business with my company, of course I do. That's the way it works, right? If you're asking me if that impacts what I would recommend to you, not at all. What I will recommend to you is the best possible solution for the water issues you're dealing with at home. The best thing for you, your home, and your family is what I'll recommend to you, regardless of what it does for me financially. But these guys didn't do that. It was amateur hour. They were just like, oh, we don't. I don't even know what the actual answer was, but because I just stopped them, I'm just like, all right, listen. Regardless of whether you make commission or not, it's good for you if you make more sales. So check this out. You guys are saying, you're like leaning over almost imposingly and saying, do you need any help treating the water at home? What if you just slightly changed the question up a little bit? What if you just said, are you aware of what's in your water at home? And I don't know, maybe 1 out of 5 people is just going to say, no, right? No, I'm not. Now, I'm not running them through an entire sales process, right? I'm not going to make it that easy on them. But where they're at right now, they had literally told me, as far as I could tell by them saying you'd be the first one, they hadn't even gotten a person to have a conversation with them. And it was like 4:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday, like Sunday afternoon
in Costco.
And I'm guessing they didn't start their shift at 3, right? They're probably just, that's their job for the day. So I felt bad for them, but I'm like, change it up and just say, are you aware of or how much do you know about what's in your water at home? And if they're like, well, it smells fine. I don't know. I heard the water's pretty hard here, right? Whatever it is, 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 people are going to give an answer that's going to solicit more advice or more conversation from you. And then I told them, like, use the ewg.org website. Do you know what that is? No. My goodness, why are you guys even here? I think was the next thing out of my mouth. Type in the zip code and show them what's in the water, right? And then just lead them down the path to a solution. But I also said, like, why is your stand right here? And the guy's like, it's the closest to the entrance that we can be. I'm like, well, cool. But like back there in the back corner, there are cases of 42 bottles of water that small ladies, I'm going to go back there and look. I'll watch small ladies hoisting those very heavy cases onto their cart.
Mm-hmm.
What if you just went over there and said, hey, what if I could show you a way you would never have to do this again? What else do you need to know? Right. And we're just going to take the money that you're spending anyway. That's what we're going to use for it. What if I could show you a way to do that? Would you at least want to know more? Right. You at least have conversations. So it was funny too. We get done and I start walking away. I'm like, oh, wait, hold up. I back up. I go, hey, have you guys heard of the Waste No Day podcast?
Of course.
They're probably listening to this. I don't know. I don't know if, like I said before I left, I said, let me ask you guys a question. Was this conversation worth having? Like, would you, if you were to know that I'm going to go do this again in another Costco, would you advise me to do it or just keep it to myself? And they were both like, oh man, we can't thank you enough, man. We just like get into this funk and it's like, you just forget what you're trying to do. Like, we needed that. I'm like, all right, cool. And then I walked away and then I came back Like, wait, hold up. Have you heard the Waste No Day podcast? It's like weeks and weeks worth of hour-long episodes of exactly this. And it's funny, as soon as I said, whoa, in Waste No Day, my 9-year-old was like, oh, Dad. Like, I go to my wife, she's like, I don't even have to do it anymore. She's going to do it for me. So beneficial for them for sure. But for me, was there benefit for me there?
Sure.
Yeah, man. It's like I'm coming outside myself again. I'm getting out of a comfort zone. I wanted to keep walking really badly. I don't want to deal with them, right? I certainly don't want to deal with them in a way that takes me from the hunted, quote unquote, client, the unwilling participant in this sales process, to some version, like a paradigm shift to a mentor or a teacher, an instructor that they didn't ask for. So now they're the hunted ones and I'm the one imposing on people, right? I don't want to do this. But I knew by the fact that I felt like, nah, don't bother. That's something I'm supposed to do, right? You get that feeling every now and then, and you just got to go after it. And this is one of those cases where I just went after it. But whether it's something that complicated and complex and layered, or it's just empathizing with someone like the person behind the counter where you say, how happy are you that you get to go sit down, right? Make them feel good. Or oftentimes, like I hate the self-checkout things. For one, I feel like
I love them. I could not think of a better technological advancement in grocery stores than that right there.
No, I feel like I'm paying enough for groceries where I don't need to be doing it myself.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you, but it's awesome.
So I'll often just say, hey, I can't tell you how much I appreciate a body still being behind the counter at one of these things, helping me do this. Because truth be told, and this is the truth, I suck at it. Every time I'm standing there, I'm like flipping the thing over and over and over. I forget what a barcode looks like. I'm like looking for a QR code, or I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing with it. Why? And then it's like, please place the item in the bag. I'm like, the item's in the bag. What's wrong with these stupid things? I don't want to do it. So oftentimes I'll go check out with a person and I will go out of my way to thank them for still doing this and the fact that I don't have to do it myself. And you know what it does? It lights them up. Because a lot of people say, hey, thanks. Enjoy your evening. But that doesn't mean anything, right? But that genuine gratitude piece where you like call out something they do, call out a real reason that you can be grateful and tell them you're grateful, that freaking means something to people. So those are your two pieces of homework. The way you're going to train yourself to get better at overcoming objections is find places and times to overcome objections when you're not in that actual money on the line, client on the line situation, right? Ask for an upgrade of anything. Ask, hey, if I get this meal, can I get one of these desserts with it complimentary? Like the Black Swan Group does this thing where Chris Voss, who was on the show a few weeks ago, the author of Never Split the Difference, where they say, hey, is there a good guy discount? Like it's so plain and simple. And he'll be the first to tell you, like, he doesn't need the discount and he doesn't want the money. He just wants the reps. And he's not selling anymore, right? But this was his second time on the show. The first time was our 100th episode where we made him role play as an HVAC tech. Now he's going to get asked to do that stuff from time to time. So he's got to be sharp, right? He's got to be ready. So that's just what they do. He goes in and he asks for hotel room upgrades. He asks for flight upgrades. He just tries to negotiate that stuff, but also not by being a jerk, by making the person want to do it for him.
Good stuff, Brian. And if I was trying to see if there was any type of list of easiest jobs or easiest people to talk to, did find a little bit of one. Hairdresser or your barber could be a great place to start. Just, they're generally talkative people. You have to sit in that chair for 10 to 15 minutes. So
10 to
start there.
15. Dude, are you still going to like a striped pole barber? 10 to 15. I'm in that chair for like 40 minutes, but I don't have any hair.
Okay, well, all the better. I'm guessing 30 of those minutes is you talking to a person who's holding the scissors and not doing anything. But
about the Waste No Day podcast and why even as a hairstylist you should be listening.
Exactly. Add that to the list.
And hey, if you really want some reps, you really want some practice, and you want to make it a little bit easier to start with, go convince a few people to listen to the Waste No Day podcast.
We'd sure appreciate it. It'd be cool.
We would appreciate it.
Well, we hope that you appreciated this episode. It has been good to just talk about the idea of overcoming objections and really becoming a self-tutorial, right? So, yes, the Waste No Day podcast, Close It Now, plenty of other ones out there are going to put out content on a weekly, maybe even more than weekly basis, but still not enough to fill up your week. And you still have to actually apply it, right? So this is a great way to put yourself in a position where you have to do some lifting yourself. Brian gave you some homework assignments. Go out there and get it done. See what happens. And you know what? You might just be surprised at how beneficial it becomes to your career and maybe even beyond that. So that's the challenge for this week, is to go out there, find some people to talk to, strike up some conversations. It doesn't have to be real crazy. It just needs to be getting some reps. If you haven't been to the gym in a while, you don't walk in there and put on, 445s on each side and try to go at it. You start low and you start making sure things are in place. And that's what we're going to leave it now for this week. We hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure that you let us know. Share it on your social media channels, as well as with some other people. We would appreciate that greatly. Leave us a review. Let us know where you struggle or where you have victory in terms of having conversations that push you out of your comfort zone. We leave you now with our weekly mantra, which continues to remain the same: to choose to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.